do you have?
All right, what's going on, everybody? Chris Frank's TexasWest Capital. I can't even talk today. I'm just having a tough time this last week. Holiday.
He's already hit the eggnog.
I wish, man. I forgot to get it this year. We got Tillman in the kitchen, and we got Andrew Parrish turning over a new leaf. I want y'all to understand he is becoming a Flair maxi, yet he wears no Flair.
Changing it right now. Changing it right now.
So should I be reading encryption into your shirt? We're not just going to the moon. We're going to Mars.
We're going to Mars, baby.
Is that what you're saying? That's what I'm saying.
Hey, man, how are y'all doing? Did y'all have a good Christmas?
Yeah, it was awesome. Really great. Wonderful. Without snow, though. That's the only thing. We kept getting false hope. The weatherman kept saying Christmas was going to be white, but we have had a drought in Colorado this year. It's still bare in most of the state. There are some exceptions, but most of the resorts are hurting pretty bad.
Yeah, we were up about 80 degrees here, which I'm just like, some days I think about just moving up as far north as possible just so we can have snow on Christmas one time. You grow up with all the movies where everybody's got snow on Christmas, and then, you don't get it. It is what it is. Anyway, hey, listen, Bitcoin just doing so much great stuff in terms of price action. Not really, right? It just kind of, we all know holiday liquidity gets really thin. Price tends to just kind of flatline, and that's what we got there with Bitcoin. But man, oh man, I saw that Michael Saylor out there still buying, right? So I think just this last week, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Andrew, but I think just this past weekend or this week or whatever, they bought another, oh my gosh, another 1,000 or 1,100 Bitcoin, something like that?
Yeah, he's been, in terms of his cost basis over the last 6 months, he's been reducing his cost basis pretty consistently. Again, over the past 6 months. But in terms of price action, what I find just really compelling about sentiment right now is every day I see someone, whether noteworthy or not, but they've been in this space long enough that people care, and have a decent following, so people care. Just basically exiting the space. Like, been doing this for a while. I'm just not into it anymore. Not sure I got anything out of it, but I'm out. Right.
Yeah.
And if that isn't let's just call it bottom signal.
That's the meaning of capitulation.
Yeah.
That is capitulation.
Right.
That is the capitulation.
Yesterday, the guy's got, I have it here. Like the guy's got, almost 80,000 followers. Right. And he's been around for 5 years. And he said, I'm done. Been a crazy ride. Not sure I really got anything from it. And sayonara, I'm done. I'm not going to post anymore. And there's different versions of that across the board. You have people that have been fairly noteworthy venture capital folks in the crypto space that have come out and said, I don't know if there's a whole lot of juice left in crypto. I'm kind of sort of pivoting to other spaces like Nick Carter. Nick Carter has basically said that, and somewhat infamously has been, kind of hyping the quantum issue associated with Bitcoin, which is wildly overhyped at this point.
Yeah.
So when you see that in this space,
it's not overhyped. It's ignorant. If you understand the tech, then you understand it's not a threat at all. There is no threat.
Exactly. And so we're at, and what's also just kind of mind blowing, people are making these posts at 88,000 Bitcoin, right? I can understand if we were at 7,700 Bitcoin or 8,800 Bitcoin. Okay, that would make sense maybe, but people are making these proclamations that they've had enough
Well, I think it's a quintessential example of the negative effects of social media, really, honestly. I think it's just clickbait. I think it's everybody is so eager to get reactions. I honestly think that those types of posts are meant to just get engagement from your followers so that the post goes viral and you become something that that lands on everybody's
I
For You
and
page.
I hate that. It's been I gotta admit here, guys, it's been bothering me so much lately. This posting for posting's sake. Attention for attention's sake. It's not like they really have anything to say. It's out there, and it annoys. I don't
Well,
know.
they do have something to say, Chris. You're wrong. They do have something to say. Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. That's what they want to say. That's what most of posting is about. Just like the kid at the birthday party that you go to and you're like, oh gosh, he needs a spanking. And it's just like he's the center of attention because his mom and dad give him everything and never tell him no. It's basically those people, but with a keyboard in front of them, sitting alone at home, basically with no moral compass, to guide them. It's just a free for all in terms of like, what can I get people to engage with me, and how loud should I have to get, and how crass should I be, how big of a knee-jerk reaction. I mean, if you look at the origins of most of the quote influencers, that in my opinion, when I was a young adult in my 20s and 30s, I thought they were losers. I literally looked at them as like, Jake Paul and Logan Paul, I don't mind calling out as two of those people, but I was just like, what are these guys? They're a creation of the void of moral guidance that the youth have. Like, I don't even know what they are, honestly. And here now they're recreating themselves as boxers, but they're rich as heck, guys. I mean, they're controlling a $1 billion+ soda company, or whatever his line of unhealthy, horrible drinks are, Prime. These people have been able to cross over the Rubicon, if you will, and get to the legitimacy column, to where they're meeting with politicians and celebrities and all of the above. So we live in a world where you can fake it until you make it.
It's awful. It's awful. And you know what? And everybody is worse off for it. I mean, we look there and I can't.
None more so. Here's the moral of the story, and here's what I would tell my kids, my teenagers. None more so than the people that choose to go that path, because they lose themselves, which is the greatest gift that anyone can give, is like the unique qualities that each of us bring to the table. And when you are just a jester in the court of public opinion, and all you're doing, your whole identity is wrapped up in what gets likes and reviews, you become something that's not you. And that is the loss. That's the greatest loss. Yes, we suffer as a community because we have a bunch of zombie teenagers. Literally, I watched a girl in front of me in, where was I? Either church or I don't know. I can't remember, but it was an auditorium, and there was a teenage girl. It was a hockey game. That's what it was. And these teenage girls literally had their cameras on their phone on them the entire game, holding their phone like they're going to get carpal tunnel syndrome, and they're holding their phone like they're videoing the game. But they're really doing is looking at themselves. They want a mirror on themselves all the time. They want to be looking at different angles, their reactions when the puck goes. I mean, it's crazy. And listen, they're videoing themselves, and then they go back and they find snips. They find photos, like frames in the video that are the perfect frame for the bike. It consumes you, is my point. Like those girls they're not even themselves anymore. They're just zombies. They're robots for the machine.
Well,
they're content creators.
When it comes to things like Bitcoin and trading and markets and whatever, I mean, again, people in general find themselves, following these people, right? And falling into this nonsense. And, I always look there and I go, man, if you want to be a trader, if you really want to understand Bitcoin better, if you want to really understand markets better, I mean, you can't go down that hole, because what you end up doing is you follow all these accounts that are doing the same damn thing, which is really not giving you any kind of information. I mean, I've seen some of the worst analysis, here the last probably 2 months or so, since October, that I've probably seen the entire time that I've been like active here on Twitter, which was 2017. And it's really bad. And, you go out there and you're like, listen, this is not how you do this. This is what you're doing. Okay, well, yeah, you
Chris,
got that. What does that really mean?
there's a guy you both know. Everyone that's listening to us probably knows, James Wynn. He came on the scene this year. He's got 500,000 followers. People listen to him like he knows what he's doing. He lost $1 billion. That's the guy that you're going to choose as the Pied Piper. He's now into meme coins. He's got a Win University. I want to go. I need to be a student of Win University. Sign me up. I need that in my life.
The bad thing about that is people get involved in stuff like that, and then they find out, oh, it's a scam, it's nonsense, it's a bunch of crap, and then they go, oh, everybody's like that, the whole market's like that, and they never get a chance to really do something with themselves.
Maybe it isn't a scam, and you never know until you go. But I will tell you this: there's a lot of people that find themselves in the same situation. Their highest value is entertainment.
Yeah.
And they monetize that value. And so if Wynn can't make another 100 million in trading, his most likely path to making millions is monetizing his following. That's the reality of the world. I don't hate him for it. I just know the game. Like, I'm not deceived by it, and I'm not going to be like at the altar of Win University thinking that I'm getting the next gold nuggets that are going to make me rich. That's not going to happen.
It's the nature of society at this point. Like social media has become such a major part of society. That if you're not meaningfully connected to it, you're a very, very small percentage of lucky folks that aren't connected to it in any meaningful way. I've said so many times, at some point, we get to a certain level where I'm just going to switch off, because it's just. It is a sometimes I'll look at my phone, at any given day, and I'll look at my, Twitter account, and I'll be like, I have nothing meaningful to say.
Yeah.
There's nothing for me to post right now. And by the way, just a little bit behind the scenes, oftentimes when I'm at that point, I'll just post the word Bitcoin and be done for the day. I'm like, well, I put something out there for today, but I basically, there are 2, 3, 4, 5 days that'll go by where I'm like, I don't, there's nothing huge going on that I want to talk about.
Nothing worthy putting out there, right? Nothing worthy
getting talked about. The whole gold and silver thing, which we'll talk about, because Tillman's been a bit of a, let's just call it a maestro at this point. I'll stroke his ego. That's been all the rage across, both financial Twitter and crypto Twitter for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sure I could come up with some things, but I don't care. Like, I don't, the idea of conversations around gold and silver versus Bitcoin is so old and played out. The only reason it exists right now is because gold and silver has gone up a lot, but I don't care.
Listen, I think that's a good litmus test for everyone. If there is an emotional tribal response to talking about what's happening in the silver market, your intentions and your motives are misplaced, in my opinion, as it pertains to Bitcoin. Both can exist. They are both markets. Markets exist when people want to trade stuff.
Yeah.
That's like me going to me being a steel guy and me going to the aluminum plant and going, horse crap. Get rid of this. This isn't even a real business. You know what I mean? It's just like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? You know, it doesn't make any sense. Silver has some very unique things going on right now. And if you care about markets, you care about those unique things because they haven't happened in 40 years. They haven't happened ever, honestly, in markets. Like my dad has been talking about what's happening in silver for literally since I'm 45 years old, since I can remember, like 40 years of talking about it and saying this is going to happen and this is why and this is
There
what.
it is, finally.
And so, you know, you get to a point where you're just like those, even if it's a broken watch is right twice a day, you should still take notice of the fact that, you know, there's a real crazy thing happening in markets right now.
Well, we talk about the fact that, traditional finance guys in that whole system, have taken a long time to embrace Bitcoin now that they have effectively. But, there's some real value associated with working with those folks. The idea of quote unquote diversification, right? If you're diversified, then that thing that happens once every 11 years or 7 years or 15 years with silver, say you're at that 5% Bitcoin in your portfolio and you're at 2%, silver or precious metals, right? Bitcoin was down, let's call it 7-8% this year, but you made it up by a factor of 2 in your precious metal position, even though it was much smaller, right? So diversification. You want to have something of most stuff. If you're 99% allocated to Bitcoin, well, you're going to ride the wave of some tough moments.
Well, and you're going to be called a hero and a loser at this, and you just get ready for the loser part.
And in any given 18-month period, you're gonna
exactly. Yeah. Silver. So some of the things that have come across my desk, this is all hearsay. I want to preface it with, I am not a professional financial advisor. I have no access to privileged information. I like to learn, and I'm ferocious about finding things. So take this with a grain of salt, is my point. But silver has played a very critical role, as well as gold has, as it pertains to the global macro scene. And just like gold was the backing of the dollar at one point, we moved from gold to oil. And gold has been manipulated and silver has been manipulated over the last 25 years. You don't have to take my word for that. You can literally just Google like every major bank, JP Morgan, gold lawsuits, market manipulation, insert big name here, and you'll find just tons and tons of cases about these markets being manipulated. And so you have to say, like, why would they manipulate those markets? Well, because for a very long time, the inflation of the US dollar was attached to the price of those materials. And that was ingrained in every financial person's mind, is like that was kind of the judge of inflation. And there's adages that are like, one gold coin should buy a finely custom mail suit. Like that's an equivalent that people have said for long periods of time. So you look at these markets as like an indicator of inflation rate. Well, that's broken now. We can all see the inflation rate. Why? Well, because Bitcoin is showing us the true inflation rate. That's the real indicator now. And so those markets don't need to be manipulated anymore. Well, all the banks were taking losses. And this is, again, hearsay. This is just total conjecture, if that's the right word. But if all these banks, essentially, to control the price of the silver market, there was not enough silver by a long shot for everyone to take delivery on it. So they would just buy the premiums up to where they had the supply to meet the demand, and they could manage that, right? And so when one bank, and I think it was JP Morgan, based upon what I've heard, is like they decided, well, this isn't, we don't need to take losses on this anymore because it's kind of like it's not a tool for inflationary gauge now. So let's reverse from shorts to long. Well, the rest of the banks can't or don't want to increase the premium cost to control it and have now not only the free market to hedge against as the market makers, but now with JP Morgan or another big bank on the other side of it, it becomes an impossible task. And then on top of that, look at what's happening with China. China just made a rule effective January 1st, tomorrow morning, which I don't even know, it might be close to happening right now based upon time. You cannot export silver out of the China market.
Yeah.
So right now you're seeing a price in China of, I didn't check this morning, but last night it was like $80. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing a price in the US in the spot market of the paper market at $70. You have like a $10 disjointed price per ounce. That's never happened. We've never had that happen before. It's massively important. Why is it important? Well, because there's now an arbitrage can't be played to equalize those markets. What happens in the global markets across every market, and what they want to have happen is if one market gets disjointed in price, market makers come in and play arbitrage until the price finds an equilibrium across all markets. Well, if you have one market that has an on-ramp but no off-ramp, you can't play that market, right? What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, if I sell my silver for yen, and then I'm done with that trade, I can't trade my yen back in for my silver. I'm stuck with yen. That is a massive deal. And it's going to suck supply up, is the point. So there's a lot of things that are happening right now that are just unprecedented. And that price of US silver price in paper, ETF price, if you will, to physical price in the US, to China's price, there's 3 different prices for one asset.
Yeah.
So, and it creates chaos. And the point is that this asset has been suppressed for so long. If you look at, and I talked about this probably, 6 months ago on the show. If you look at like the ratio of silver traditionally to gold, it's like, I think it's 1 to 1/16 the price. So every ounce of gold buys you 16 ounces of silver or 18 ounces of silver. I think it got up to like 1 ounce of gold bought you 90 something ounces of silver. Now we're at like 50 or 40. It's still a ridiculous disjointed price based upon what gold has done over the last 48 months versus what silver has done. Coupled with the fact that silver is heavily used. So the industrial applications of silver is in every solar panel, every computer, there's industries that have to have it, right? So there's a real situation at hand. And what's very interesting is China's the one that has drawn the line in the sand. And they've basically nationalized silver. like what they did is equivalent to what we did with gold, and said, basically, our dollar is backed by our gold reserves. Well, now they have more mines of silver in China than anyone else. They are the largest producer. They're like everything's stacked, and they're going, hey, I think we could get some wild prices, is I guess the conjecture here, the hypothesis here. So you never know. There's people out there saying $400, $800, $1,000 silver ounces. Like, I don't know. I'm not here for the crazy wild stuff, but I will tell you, I'm not surprised, as evidenced by my previous conversation with you guys as it pertains to what silver's potential is, and I don't think we've even scratched the surface. So there's some
from just let's just call it flow of capital, because I always, my prism is the traditional wealth management space. So they're going to have conversations after the first of the year. Everybody's going to look at asset classes, right? So what asset class did what? Human nature says, oh, wait a minute, silver was up an ungodly amount. Hey, man, why weren't we exposed to that? Why didn't we have any exposure? Yeah. I got a tiny bit of gold exposure. Why didn't we have any silver exposure? So you're going to see increased inflows into silver assets and silver equities in Q1 and Q2. So that will keep the price either, there'll be a floor, let's call it, to the current price, and we'll probably see things a little bit higher through the first 6 months of the year. After that, no idea, absolutely no idea. But at least from inflows of capital, that's the way that it goes. I mean, like flat out, that's the way that it goes. And most of the time, those people end up getting the short end of the stick, right? So people that are like, oh, wait, it's even gone up again in the first quarter, so I'm going to put some money into it. And then it's flat to lower by the end of the year because they bought at the top. Let's say silver ends up at 110, in April of next year. And I'm going to allocate now because
but here's what, Andrew, here's what's crazy is like all you're discussing is like your background of TradFi speculation, price fluctuations.
Yeah.
It's again, me and you cut from different cloths. I look at always like the code behind the project, like and go look at who responded the quickest to China's announcement of the silver restrictions. Elon Musk did. And why did Elon Musk? Because he has to have silver to make his cars. Sure. He has to have silver to make his Starlinks. He has to have silver to make all of the stuff that he is planning. So to think that we're not going to see some heavy hitters enter this game and go, I mean, the stage is set for some massive players to start paying attention to this market. This China announcement is so large, guys. It would be like if Taiwan said no more exporting of all chips.
Yeah, so that what I think of when you say that, it makes sense, right? But I also know that Elon's got a little bit of juice, probably has significant juice with those in China. So he probably goes directly to China and says, hey, I need, you guys got to help me out here.
Yeah, he probably cuts a deal with China for sure. Right. But again, like the fact that he's even being drawn into this war shows you that it's a real war. It's not a battle, it's a war. I mean, it's a big deal. And it could be the catalyst for the unwinding. We always talk about the carry trade unwind. This makes the carry trade unwind, in my opinion, look like child's play. I mean, what truly happened? Like, what if there's the control mechanism that has been deployed on the silver market is shorts. What if there's a short squeeze of epic proportions? I mean, we're talking about just 35 years of covers needing to take place. Like that to me would be a sight to see. That would put some people at the insolvent level is what I would.
So you're trying to say it would be the GME trade, short squeeze of precious metals.
I'm saying that a lot of people have short exposure to silver at an institutional level, a lot, and I mean a lot, because that is the game whereby which that's one of the entry passes. When you're in the club, you do what everybody else does in the club, and that's part of the recipe of being in the club is that silver is one of those markets where they very tightly have controlled it, and for good reason. I'm not here to scrutinize that. To be honest with you, it's above my pay grade. It may be of national security implications. You see what I'm saying? Like if
Yeah, it's an
Uranium sure is. So why is, if uranium is of national security implications, silver could very well be as well.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of factors at play. I always default to worst case scenario, best case scenario. Reality generally lies somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people claiming, well, we're going to crash down below 50. Probably not. And even if you do, same thing with Bitcoin when it was in the 70s and crashed down to 48. Within minutes,
yeah, but Andrew, that's what's crazy is there's two markets. One's calling the other a liar.
Sure.
And so you look at the crash that happened in silver this weekend, Sunday, I think it was, or I can't remember the day. It's all blurred together, the holidays. But the big giant red candle that was a 15-minute candle, that one, that one was only happened in America.
Yeah.
It only happened in the paper silver market. In the physical market, premiums, people were selling silver at $110 an ounce for right now. You can go online and look. People are selling at $90 an ounce, $80. People aren't letting go of physical silver at the $70 COMEX spot price ETF that they're showing you. They're just not. So there's already this gap between the paper and the physical. And then you go to China and the gap's another $10. So which market will win in being the leading price? Which market's wrong is, I guess, the question. And so if China proves the paper market wrong, there's a lot of paper that has to be accounted for, is, I guess, the point. And that is what is at risk right now, because if that market falls apart, they take over the COMEX market. They become the price the price of silver for going forward. Why? Well, because they actually have the silver. It's what go look at what the Hunt brothers tried to do.
Right.
They were U.S. citizens. They lived in Texas. They're infamous. Their heirs own Kansas City Chiefs, like big time family. Books have been written about this. I'm not giving any inside information here. It's a case study if you grow up in Texas. The two brothers tried to corner the silver market. They tried to do this. They did it. They did it to the point that it was of national security interest, and the feds came and knocking, and they go, you can't buy anymore. In fact, you got to start selling. The market has to have your silver, and you will sell it. And there's two paths here. We can make you rich and eminent domain your silver, and we can make a deal here, or we can confiscate it. And which one do you want? And that's literally, the way I understood it, the options that were presented to them. Well, China, you can't do that with. So good luck unraveling this ball of wax. I mean, this is an interesting one.
Yeah, it's a interesting. You can take it a million different directions in terms of I don't want to necessarily say conspiracy theories, but you can go all over the board.
Market dynamics.
Yeah, in quotes, right? Market dynamics.
Well, we're seeing the same thing happening with Bitcoin, right? Michael Saylor, how many people over the last year have questioned how much he has? Is there concentration risk in his holdings, basically? These are market dynamics that exist in every market. Silver has just been uniquely manipulated and uniquely suppressed, and now we're seeing kind of the breaking of that, not because of anything other than, from what I've heard, is that the inner circle they've turned on each other. They've gone, screw it, we're out.
By the way, for purposes of full disclosure, I know for a fact that Tillman's holding back on some of the things he wants to say on this show, probably based on stuff he's read and So there's more to the story here, which I find fascinating. Right. So
well, listen. Chris knows this. Chris, how manipulated has silver been? You know about this whole industry and.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's that whole idea of like you said, all you have to do is look. You can just Google it these days and see that all the major banks have been fined. At this point and that point for manipulation of the physical metals markets, and not just gold, silver, other ones as well. And it's kind of interesting when you look at that, right? Because what is it? It's like it's right on. The government says, listen, you've manipulated it, but hey, we're just going to slap you on the wrist, give you the, and then what happens? 5 years, 10 years later, happens again, right? Happens again. It's all part of it.
Well,
Now,
I think the reality is that there's a really fine there's a big gray area between being a market maker and manipulation. And I don't even know how to define it, honestly. And I consider myself well versed. But if you think about it, a market maker's job is to keep spreads tight, but only through competition of other market makers. If you're a single market maker, it's not your job to keep spreads tight. Your job is to make money on the spread, right?
Yep.
So if I can control the spread, is it in my best interest to keep them real tight, or is it in my best interest to keep them as wide as I can make them, but still have the volume? Obviously, as wide as I can make them and still have the volume. And so I think at some level, if you're the only market maker, or if you're in collusion with other market makers in a very small market, there can be some very nefarious price manipulation tactics deployed where the market cannot move. You are up against people who have an infinite money supply. They're just turning paper into paper, and the paper stacks get so high on one side that everybody pukes up their physical. I saw a video online this weekend of guys melting down Rolexes for the gold price, for the gold value. It's that high, Chris. You got an antique beater gold watch from 1982 with a broken dial, broken face. It's going to cost you $4,000 to renovate, to get it up to snuff. You're going to have $12,000 in, but you got $25,000 right now in gold value. Come on, just gonna throw it. That's a worthless watch compared to how much cash value is in the gold.
Well, speaking of the worth and value of things, what I found, I think, pretty interesting this past week is Peter Schiff, go figure, right? Kind of really knocking on Saylor, saying, oh, well, he really screwed the people by buying Bitcoin all this time. He should have blah, 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 blah. But it seems to me that Mr. Goldbug there doesn't really understand Saylor's strategy, right? He views it as, okay, well, he's just trying to get it however much it's worth. But really, what's Saylor doing? So what we've talked about, right? He's
accusing Saylor of shilling something. He's accusing Saylor of shilling something, which tells me he's the shiller, right? You accuse other people of what you're guilty of what your conscience is eating at you about. And so he's out there going, look, he probably at some level feels bad about shilling, gold the way that he does. I mean, he like Andrew points out all the time, this guy has a company that sells gold. I mean, to say that he has a vested interest is an understatement, right? But Saylor, if you ever meet him, the conviction is not about making money on. He doesn't care if one person follows him. I truly believe that. That's my stance. But
Schiff is the only way that Schiff makes money is by engaging in rage bait on social media to have people find a passing interest in his fund and his gold stuff. And the place that he finds that and gets the most eyeballs and the most engagement so that his posts are seen in different places is by engaging with the Bitcoin community. He's been doing it for a decade. His funds have not grown in any meaningful way for the last decade until the last 6 months, so to speak. So it's a business strategy. It's
100%. Yeah, it's exactly what we were talking about at the beginning of the call. It's clickbait. It's just to get people to click. I mean, I'd like to see him go band for band with Saylor. That would be funny. That would be.
Well, frankly, what's sad is that he'll do interviews and he'll do panels with Bitcoin folks, CZ of Binance made him look like an absolute fool a couple months ago. They did a one-on-one on stage, and CZ handed him.
That was funny.
And he's like, "Yeah, this is awesome." And they broke it. It's not real. It wasn't real gold. I mean, just made him ridiculously dumb. And that's at the core of the reality of again, if you put your entire world and your entire net worth just into gold or just into Bitcoin or just into anything, that's not a smart idea, because
you have to ask yourself, you're just wanting an identity. Like, fine, don't get into an investment for the community. That's the tail, not the dog. The dog.
Yeah, there are just there's just smarter ways to go about it. So many smarter ways. And some of my old TradFi friends, who I'm still friends with, they're just they're smart about the ability to building a portfolio. Obviously 60-40 is dead, but you build a portfolio based on what you think is going to be meaningful in the next 3 to 5 years. And the truth of the matter is that we now live in a system, let's call it, right? So we live in a system where we're going to see asset prices inflate until otherwise shown differently, right? Until otherwise proven that somebody is going to come in and shut down the money printer, completely for a long period of time and basically hit reverse on everything that's been going on for the last, 20 years, right? Then you just assume that asset prices are going to go up a meaningful amount on an annualized basis, right? So
I don't understand how people have such a hard time with that concept. You say that, we say that every single week, yet people won't bet their life savings on it. And my point to them would be this: every generation has sticker shock. Every single one. My parents, when I take them to a hotel and it's $400 a night, they go, "What? $400 a night? We would never. What happened to the $59.95?" Well, that is long gone. Holiday Inn on the highway is $119, Dad.
It exists. It's just the whatever it is, and there's urine on the carpet.
You may not want to be there. Yeah.
My point is that over time, like if I said to you right now, Chris, you're sitting in a house, what's the likelihood of your house being the same value 20 years from now that it is today? Yeah. Well, that's as stupid as if you look at 1990 prices of homes against today's prices. They're insanely higher. I mean, just like 3x the price. I think the average house, it was, used to be 150 grand. Now it's like 500 and something. It's a lot higher is the point. And so just look at that as a natural law. That is the type of economy we have chosen as an inflationary economy, a debt-based economy. And why? Well, because we want to pay back generation after generation. We want to pay our debt back with cheaper dollars. That is the nature of the beast. And
exactly.
So we
have to. I mean, you can't afford to continue racking up debt like the U.S. does and have to pay it with deflationary dollars. All of a sudden, that debt starts becoming more and more expensive. It's unsustainable. Everybody, I think you and I have talked about this a few times here over the last, year and a half plus we've been doing this, about this idea that, everybody's bringing up, there's so many dollars in circulation. The government's, debt has increased so much. And we both kind of said, well, okay, yeah, but that's not in a vacuum. GDP has also increased, right? As long as as long as you're making more, right, you can keep up with that. You can infinitely inflate it as long as you keep up with that, right? To some extent. Now, is that going to happen? Is an infinite inflation likely? Probably not.
Well, it depends on how innovative we are, right? Like think about the expansive, the inflation rate and the ceiling of how many dollars you should have in print at any given time should be proportionate to the opportunity of output that you can have. That's it, right? It's as simple as that. Like if you have, the reason why, for example, the Mexican peso has decreased in value so rapidly over my lifetime is because they're not innovating. They have they're selling a lot of commodities to the world that have a fixed price. And those fixed prices with innovation should come down over time. Commodity prices come down over time. That's the nature of the beast. So what does that do? It's a race to the bottom. Race to the bottom is a hard way to live. Hard for an economy to survive on output that is a commodity-based output that is a race to the bottom. It's not scarce. You could do it anywhere. Anyone who can produce it cheaper is the seller, right? Versus if you, as a nation, own Microsoft in its early days. If you have something that has so much potential to make money for the world, like innovation does, technology does, the Elon Musks of the world do, the data center that he put in Memphis is a national treasure, in my opinion. Those types of things are why we can inflate our dollar with certainty against the output, because the output has more impact than even the inflationary rate that we're riding does. And so, that's a gamble, obviously. If we can't do that, then we will have a problem. But America continues to do that. That is what we do. And I think that the nature of our society is about innovation. It's about changing the world. It's about breaking down technological barriers. And AI and crypto, if you know anything about it, we're on the beginning edge of curve of that. Like we haven't even started like that. Go into every company in 10 years and they will all have AI agents running their businesses.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
Yeah. And the only real bottleneck when it comes to AI really is the energy right now. So, I mean, these data centers, everything pumping up there, as long as you can, I don't know, I think if you're looking at some great trade next year, maybe even the year after, and you're looking somewhere outside of Bitcoin, why would you? But if you were, I think you look at that intersection of AI and energy. I mean, I was talking about this yesterday at the end of the trading spaces show that I usually attend there on Tuesdays. And, I think that's really where you look, not just straight up AI, but where does AI meet energy? That's the bottleneck. That's where, and again, maybe I'm more sensitive to it because I'm in Texas where we have our own grid and where, I lived through just a few years back where it almost went down. That's such a big thing if it had, and how dangerous that would have been, and so here we are here. And now we have all this over the last 2 years, really, this significant inflows of data centers coming over here and all these applications for energy from ERCOT just continue to pile up. Especially in the very large range, right? So Texas, by the way, speaking of that, Texas, I believe that they just passed a bill that says, hey, listen, we can cut you off. If the grid needs you to be off,
you're off. It's imminent domain of power. It's like, we're going to parse it to the most dire needs, which, you have to do because there's, nursing homes, for example, they need to keep their power on. I promise.
Have people with oxygen,
Car manufacturing lines don't so that is, and most big manufacturing companies have deals with the power companies to use during non-peak hours and those types of things. What I think is more interesting, and I think Elon Musk gets this, is that power is not a scarce commodity.
Right.
Localized power is the scarce commodity. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that power loses its potency the longer it has to be transmitted.
Yeah.
So you can't generate power out in the desert of Nevada and then put power lines all the way to Los Angeles and power Los Angeles. There's a degradation across the line. You can't get the power there is the point. Power also is very inefficiently stored. Now that technology is on a very, very steep curve, and it's getting better and better every year, but it's very, very heavy. Like these batteries are enormous, they're costly, they have short life cycles. All these things don't make storing power very, very proficient, like efficient. So,
Yeah.
but when you're talking about data centers, none of those limitations matter.
Hmm.
If you're talking about securing, our national infrastructure on a proof of work network, that is no different than military spending, in my opinion. If we adopted that and we said, you know what, we're going to make the first ever federal chain of information that is issued directly from the federal government, it's going to be, these are the things that they could implement that, and they could offer that as a backbone of infrastructure against, the security of the information on that network. They could be the new Amazon in a single fell swoop and replace all other data center needs all at once. How? Well, they just go out into the middle of nowhere and they put as many solar panels as they need to up to generate the power needed to power, the data center that they build out there. And they can make data centers better than bigger than any private industry from a money perspective. They can just keep throwing our money at it from a taxpayer perspective, and they could build that, right? That would be, and so I think that really power, in my opinion, isn't as big of a deal for data centers as we think it is. I think power is a big deal for cities because it's hard to store it in cities. You can't generate it far away from the cities, and cities have large peak demands. Power only has issues as it pertains to people. Computers don't have problems with power, but mining facilities can turn on and off based upon
Yeah, but
demand
that's Bitcoin
threshold.
miners, though. Data centers can't just do that. You're supposed to be running 24/7,
Well,
right?
but that's why you can put it in the middle of nowhere and generate the power out there that you need, and it's a localized power that you can apply.
Or even, again, something I've brought up multiple times on different shows over the last month or whatnot, Chevron or whatever it is that's building that new gas drilling out in Permian Basin, and all that supply that came out of there has already been bought up by Meta or whatever for their data center. Completely going to skip the grid. It's going to be direct to the business type thing there to the data center. And I think we start seeing stuff like that as well coming up here.
I agree. Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing. I think that's really a great way to kind of mitigate to some extent this is, because it is real. The power.
Well, how do you store the energy? How do you store gas? Gas is hard to store too, right? You can't take a gas out of the ground in an infinite level and put it in tanks. Hey, stop wiping your microphone off during my conversation. You can't store gas very well, right? And so why wouldn't you repurpose it into data, which stores very well, and it has infinite expansion value, whereas gas has limited expansion value. It can only be used for certain things. Information can be used for we don't know how it'll be used 100 years, 15 years from now. But it's valuable is the point.
Yeah, for sure. But again, bring it all back to to Bitcoin. People are getting kind of crazy about price, and I think Andrew makes a great point earlier when he said we're at 88,000 and people were losing the damn minds. Basically, what he said. I think I paraphrased you pretty correctly there.
It's so let's just go back to cycles, right? So 2017 to 2018, I think year over year you were down like 60+% or whatever the number was. 2021 to 2022, it was 80%, right? So let's take a look at 2024 to 2025, 7.5%. Yeah. Like if those statistics don't give you okay, I've got to have a fresh new sort of look at how Bitcoin is going to move going forward, then I don't know what else to tell you.
This is one of the fatal flaws of investing, in my opinion, and predictions. I'm not going to name the name, but he's let's say a friendly of ours, he has made a very bold prediction about XRP's price by the end of this year.
Yeah. Mhm.
The fatal flaw, in my opinion, of doing those things is in the date. Right? You can be right about the expansion opportunity and price appreciation of an asset. Like who knows when. But to say by December 31st, you're ignoring the fact that the market doesn't know it's December 31st. You know it's December 31st. And you know that's an important date because it's the beginning of a new year the next day. All those things are important to you. It's not important to the market. The market doesn't know those things. It's not a big, and so you appropriate a bias in your prediction. You go, it's going to be this price. Great. Stop there. You'll be right a lot of the time if you stop right there. Why? Well, because eventually with inflation, everything gets to that price. The question is by when? And that is where everyone's wrong. So if you think you can time the market, God bless you. You are a protege of James Wynn, evidently. And, I hope you make $1 billion, and you very well may. But you're going to be so intoxicated with your ego when you make that billion that you're going to lose it. Because you'll think that you've got the Midas touch, and the market will prove you that no one has the Midas touch. It's a system.
It's the the Tom, what's his last name? We always talk about him on the show. Tom
Lee?
Yeah, Tom Lee.
I thought that was way too easy. I didn't even want to say that.
Yeah, so it's Tom Lee syndrome, right? So I've said so many times he makes predictions and he ends up always being right. It's just about time, not timing. Yeah. And so no question. Like it's the two sides of one coin. So 2024, I said Bitcoin was going to get to 80K by the end of the year. Well, it was at 97,000 on December 31st of last year. So I was wrong, but to the upside. I said 250K by the end of this year. I was wrong, but significantly to the downside, right? Do we get to 250K at some point? Yeah, of course we do. So time versus timing is the only difference there, especially with Bitcoin, right? Yeah. I can't say anything else about the likes of Flare and XRP. That's a different conversation. But
listen, there are people out there saying that they believe in the next 12 hours that it will go to $10,000 a coin.
Yeah.
When it does, you're going to be sorry you didn't buy more and listen to them,
Well, so here's, and another thing, right? We've talked about this guy, Mike McGlone, on this show and saying, Bitcoin's going to 10,000. Like, that's just frankly as ridiculous as somebody that thinks that XRP is going to 100 in the next 12 hours, right? It just there's no version of it that makes sense other than I'm leaning into this because this is part of my personality now.
I think it personally is a dopamine hit because I've been there. It's like there's a very significant dopamine release when you feel like you're in the know and no one else is.
Sure.
And when you feel like you've all but ascertained the "I told you so" moment, but it hasn't happened, but in your mind it's so clearly going to happen. That is a state of mind that we've all been in if you've been in the crypto game for any period of time.
Well, and
but it is a mistake.
Yeah. By the way, nobody is immune to that.
No,
right?
I've been there, man. I've been there with the hook, line, and sinker.
Somebody that is just a one small ring above you, a guy by the name of Larry Fink. I mean, he has given price predictions associated with Bitcoin, 500 to 700K. So nobody's immune to that concept, that process of this is what I think, and I think I'm reasonably intelligent. And
here's what my coach Brown would say to you: if you're going to believe all the stuff that they say in the media that's good about you, You have to believe all the stuff that they say in the media that's bad about you.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to believe that, you just shouldn't believe anything that they say. And it's like that, because here's what happens psychologically. If you make a price prediction and you're right, it's human nature to think that it was something other than luck.
Well, it's like that guy. I don't know what his name is, but he was wildly popular on crypto Twitter for like 4 months because he said on Tuesday, blah blah blah, Bitcoin's going to be at such, it's 104,000. All right, and he was actually right. It was at 104,000 on that day. So people thought that he was some sort of Buddha and had somehow all the knew something that nobody else did. And then he said, and part of that prediction was going to be at 104 at such and such a time, such and such a date. And it hit that exact time and date. And he had then said, we'll be at 444 at the end of the year. So that clearly didn't happen, right? So Josh Mandel is I think, the guy that said that.
Well, and here's my point in that. That's like beating the casino.
Mm-hmm.
You run out the door. You never make a prediction again, and you go down. When anyone trash talks you, you just go, no. Remember, I'm 1 for 1. I remember that one I told you about. I was that one. Because if you tempt fate for the second one, you are tempting fate, and the third one is a death nail. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, don't go 3. Don't try
so what
for
you're
3.
saying is don't believe your own BS.
Well, there is, especially on social media, right? It's pack mentality, right? It's pack mentality if you're right, and then it's pack mentality if you're wrong. And it's I don't know. I find both of them interesting and kind of fun, right? Like I completely lean into the wrongness of my prediction for this year. I'm like, yeah, well, that was wrong. In fact, I think I quote posted what I did, and I just said brutal. Right, like just
yeah, you did, yeah. That's all that.
And but if you're able to have fun with it and be self-deprecating,
well, here are the odds tables. I'm going to give everybody out there that's saying bull to us the math behind what we're talking about. You make one prediction, you have 50-50 shot.
That's right.
You make 2 predictions, the odds are 3 to 1.
Yep.
You make 3 predictions, they're 7 to 1 hitting. You make 4, they're 15 to 1. So if you think you're smart enough to just hit 4 balls in a row, you have a 6% likelihood of doing that. So good luck. You're going to be wrong 15 times to the one time you're right. You better manage the capital accordingly is the point.
Just make sure whatever you're gonna make your prediction on, make sure it's the one that's, if you're right, it's gonna pay off.
That's right. Well, those odds tables are why the parlay bets are sucker bets. Yeah. And why casinos are willing to be the counter trade to them. Casinos won't be counter trades to a lot of bets. They'll be counter trade to parlays because they're giving you 2 to 1 odds when it's 15 to 1 odds that you hit. That's a premium that's worth taking. Is I guess the point.
That's the trade you take, right?
That is the trade you take.
if you're the casino, that is. Oh man, but anyway, hey, listen, guys, we are here. We're at our hour, so I think we're going to get out of here. As always, man, appreciate you guys showing up and sharing your thoughts and your knowledge and your insider information. I didn't say that. None of y'all did that, right? Never, ever. Tillman and his insider silver information, right?
Yeah, it's not insider information. I promise you that is why. I mean, listen, a lot of people will take we just spent an hour talking about how everyone's wrong on the internet. So that's us included. So take it with a grain of salt. That's us too. Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, and that's the one thing I always say to people when they're coming in here and they're coming online and they're looking, and I always say, man, the worst thing you can do is if you're coming into markets is follow somebody and the first trade they talk about that you see, they're correct. Because, oh my God, you think there's something special. You have nothing to none of their past experience to bet that against, to look at or whatever, and instantly just sucks you in. Next thing you know, you're out all your money and you're going, what the hell just happened, right?
Well,
So
we may be the precursor. Like in 1982, I think, maybe something like that. Silver went to $40.
yeah.
That was the last high. The
1982.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary.
Well, I think like interest rates were 20%, or I mean,
Yeah.
the system was broken. Like there was a lot of problems on the horizon. But my point is that those people that entered in at that price have been waiting 40 years
Some
for
of
the
them
I
have just
told you
passed
so
it on in their
moment.
will to the next of kin,
Yeah,
right?
I happened to get on the train 6 months ago, and I look a lot smarter than them, but we both made the same bet. I just got lucky in the timing. That's really what it amounts to. It's like, so you can't, take heed to the fact that make your money when you buy and be patient until you have to sell. That's how you do it. Just make your money when you buy, which means buy when everyone is cussing it and kicking it like a dog and saying that it's the worst asset in the whole world. Ask yourself, is this asset 20 years from now have any probability of being obliterated from the earth? Is it going to go extinct? If the answer is no, then it's just a matter of timing. You get in when it sucks and you wait until it doesn't. That's kind of the
Here's a sobering thought too. So, if Bitcoin breaks new highs in 2026, from where we are right now, that's like a 80% year, right? That's a big number, right? So think about that. If we print a 131, right, and that's the near the end of the year next year, it's in the 130s. That will be a banner year. But for most of the people that we know and all the commentary on crypto Twitter, people would not be satisfied with that.
Yep.
People would be like, well, geez, it was at 126, 12, 14 months ago. I don't know. I don't know if this asset is really worth it anymore. It's just context, right? I mean, context. Think about that and let that soak in for a minute. If that's where you are, I just saw another person that I've been following since I've been on crypto Twitter in 2016. Bitcoin Jack, right? I actually know his real name. I've had some back and forth with him. He's over in Europe. Really, really smart guy. Always been a really, really sharp guy in the space. And he put out a tweet earlier today. It's kind of dead around here. What should I pivot this account to? And I'm like, holy smokes, man. It really is something out there.
Did you tell him Ethereum?
Yeah. So I also wanted to say, as we come to the close of the year for this show, I would like, to thank Chris for truly being the maestro debater for this particular group over a period of the last 12 months. You deserve that moniker. You should put it in your thing there, maestro debater. So yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed this hour every week.
I feel like we are like the modern day movie 300. Bearded, muscular, and we're kicking the fiat system into the pits of hell. So yeah, this has been a great year. I feel great.
It's been a
about
lot
it.
of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
There's got to be an AI version of that somebody.
That I was hoping one of our, Luca, if you're listening.
I mean, like it or not, and whether you complain about what Bitcoin's done this year or not, the reality of it is we're really not down that far. And you're getting all bent out of shape. And if we do go down lower, we go down lower. I mean, look at your opportunity to buy. I've just, as we're kind of leaving out of here, I notice a lot of people starting to exit the space, and not talking about just, commentators and whatnot out there, but people, just regular Joes out there trying to trade and whatnot, again, becoming fair weather traders. They think the only way to make money is when the market's going up, and they can miss the whole other side of it. They don't use the opportunity when price is pulling back to learn more about what they say they want to do. And if you find yourself in that position, change it. The great thing about markets is you can make money in either direction.
Well, your financial future is like a house that you're building over the course of your whole life, right? Until the day you retire, it's this house that's under construction. The materials you use to build that house should be materials like Bitcoin, silver, things that have staying power against the dollar's inflationary rate. And when you put your money into those materials, no different than a construction company, you should buy those materials at the cheapest cost that you can acquire them. So when Bitcoin's going down in price, please flip your mentality and go, I'm buying wood and stone at a 25-40% discount. Buy all you can at that time period, but don't think that it's the end all. It may go lower. Who cares? You just keep buying. You got to build the house. You need the materials. When do you want to buy it? You want to buy it when it's high or low? Buy it when it's low.
Exactly. I appreciate you guys so much, man. Next show next week, new year. And by the way, we'll be out of the holiday liquidity kind of thinningness. And so, we might have something pretty interesting to talk about, even more so in terms of price, one way or the other next week. So we'll see how things go.
January through March has always been a banging period for us over here at Arch Public.
It'll be really funny to watch volumes with spot Bitcoin next week versus like this week.
Yep.
Like comical. The difference in the volume bars starting at 9:30 in the morning on Monday.
Good times. All right, guys. Hey, listen, kick in the new year. Fun, but carefully. I don't want everybody coming back with less fingers and toes than they started out with. That's unfortunately a thing here in the U.S. So
the only way I'd blow my fingers off is with those bottles of Cristal and DP that I'm gonna be popping. So.
Oh, Lord have mercy!
You'll shoot your eye out. Shoot your eye out.
All right, we appreciate y'all joining us as always. Hopefully, we'll see you guys again next week. Until then. Tillman likes to remind you that the only thing you control is the blues, all right? He is 100% correct.
You've been waiting for it for like 3.5 minutes.
Listen, Chris, it's the quintessential example of a one-man band, okay? You obviously have put the marketing hat on inside of your company. And, it's let's just say you're a much better trader than you are a marketer.
See, no respect.
Right? No respect. That's right. No respect.
All right. Hey, everybody, we will see y'all next week, guys. Have a great evening, bringing in the new year. And we'll see y'all then. Take care.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Trading tip. Always manage risk before chasing gains.